there's always
That big thing.
because it always sits back.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Stephen, are we ready? Okay, before we start our, after our Pledge of Allegiance, I would just like to take a moment of silence, if you will. In 2012, 3 Scouts took on the Eagle Scout project at the Keith Mitchell Forest. Adam Messier, Dustin Zrilak, and Justin Giddings. Justin built the benches at Eagle Landing, and Justin passed away last Monday. And I wanted to take a moment of silence to remember him and the footprint that he left here in Seymour. The town will place a plaque there in remembrance of Justin. Our thoughts and prayers will be with his family, so I just wanted to take a moment of silence for him. Okay? Everybody stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, call the meeting to order. We did that, Pledge of Allegiance. Public comment. Is there any public comment? Public comment going once, public comment going twice, public comment going 3 times, okay? Can I have approval of the minutes from the September 17th, 2024 regular meeting?
So moved.
Motion by Al,
Second.
second by Trish. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Update and discussion with the Emergency Management Director, Chris Edwards, regarding the storm event on August 18th through 19th.
Good evening. Goes off the close to you. Chris Edwards, 1 First Street, Fire Chief, Emergency Management Director. Just wanted to give you guys another quick update. We had some changes since the last time we met. Nothing crazy, but some changes. So, as you're all aware, President Biden signed the individual assistance declaration and the SBA one. So that does the small businesses and all the individual structures that people own. They have opened 2 centers, one in Oxford Town Hall, one in Monroe Town Hall, for SBA. That is so they can assist anybody that doesn't speak English, has problems with the computer, doesn't have a computer, all that stuff. So they open those hours. They're open 6 days a week. I posted that on our Facebook site, town site, everything. I did find out today that they opened individual centers. They opened one in, they told me on my way here, Southbury. Couldn't think of the name. So they opened one in Southbury and then one in Fairfield County. That's for any homeowner that has the same issues, no computer, can't figure out the paperwork or whatever. They can go to these centers and they'll be assisted. I've also put it out there to anybody needs it. I will go with them. They could come here. I could go to their house and I could assist them with the paperwork the best that I could. Spoke with DOT today on the bridge by Fritz's. They're in the final stages, and they're hoping to have that open on Saturday. They start in the guardrails today, and then they got to go through an inspection. As long as everything goes, fingers crossed, they'll have that bridge open by Saturday. So that should alleviate some stuff on Woodside Ave, and then we could get the engineers over there to look at Woodside Ave and make sure nothing took any damage over there. B&B Engineering has completed the evaluations on the entire part of Little River that comes through Seymour. They did come up with about 15 to 16 sites. Some we expected, some we did not expect. So there's some that we're going to have to address. So if you see in the paperwork that you have there, I reached out to the National Resource Centers. They're a federally mandated company. Once their declarations get signed and stuff, so they do all the waterways through. So I got them coming in to kind of give us prices on fixing a couple retaining walls across Little River, some banks, Holy's Pond, that stuff. The only difference is if we do go with them, which will be down the line, as long as the board accepts the proposal. It is only a 75% coverage, so we'd have to come up with the other 25%. Once President Biden signs the Public Assistance Act, which we've met the thresholds, so now we're just waiting for the signature, that will open grants that we could apply for the other 25%. So once I get all the paperwork down, I will visit our counterpart in Oxford on Holy's Pond, because they do own, at least a quarter of it at this point, I would say. And then we'll figure it out from there. But if we can get it recovered through the NRC and a grant, then we don't have to pay anything. We'll get it dredged and back to where it was. We got the proposal back for Mill Street to put it back to its original state prior to August 18th. And it's looking at roughly about $560,000. So we are not moving on that project yet until we get the declaration, because we won't be refunded any of that money if we put it out of our pockets. So, because we're only in the emergency part of it. So we got the road safe, so nobody gets hurt. So that's covered. So if we go back and fix it 100% right now, because it's not past the emergency, we would have to front that money and probably not get it back. So we're going to hold off on that project until we get the declaration. And unfortunately, we've hit a roadblock at Claridge's Plaza with Eversource. They want to move the electrical room around by putting some components outside so they have access to them. So in a better word, they want to bring it up to code because the building's older. So the problem is the parts that they're requesting that we get, or the plaza owners get, are minimum 60 weeks out. So
Those are the new components, I'm sorry, to bring it up to code?
Correct. So I sent 2 emails on the town side through my office requesting a meeting with Eversource to try to come up with a compromise. They're not saying they don't want to do the work. They don't have a problem doing it and bringing it up. The problem is we're looking at our businesses being out for a year and a half. No one's going to survive that. So I'm just waiting for Eversource to get back to set up a meeting and go from there and see if we could come up with a compromise to get the building up and running. So we could get them back in by December, and then they can make the adjustments they need to make on their buildings within the next year. When the parts come in, they'll move everything. So I'll keep you updated on that. It's kind of a ball in the air right now that I don't have an answer for. But I know we can't wait 60 weeks. So if I do run into a roadblock, I may need some help from the board to back me on this and put some pressure on it and get these businesses open. Because they're not going to survive a year and a half being out, neither the plaza owners or these businesses. So I mean, that's everything from Ocean State around to Woodland right now. So, and River Street is completely open, not to jump back to DOTs, completely done. It's passed its inspection and it's open 2 ways fully. And that's my report.
Chief, anybody have any questions? Chief, go ahead.
Can I address a rumor that I heard? Because I said I don't believe that's true. Any vehicles that we have found, they've been empty, correct?
Town of Seymour has not found any vehicles.
Okay.
The vehicles that were found in Rivers were in Oxford and Southbury, and to my knowledge, yes, they were empty.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Before we have you here, can you give us I know you can't speak much about it, but the elections, I know that you guys have something to do with that, but can
Yeah, so within the next couple weeks, now that all the assistance centers are open and stuff, I'll be sitting down with Deputy Chief Appiano and Chief Buccarati. There's a bunch of stuff has come down from the state already on security measures for elections. Obviously, what's going on around us. We are a very soft target, so there will be plans in place that I can't say publicly through my office and the PD and the elector's office that there will be measures put in place for certain situations. But we will be working on that, and I will give you guys the packet in confidentiality once it's done. And I'll be meeting with the Register of Voters to go over everything about 2.5 weeks prior with all their workers to go over, say something, see something, exit plans, and all that stuff.
Great, thank you.
I do
Go
have one
ahead.
question. The house on Woodside, that's condemned? Is
Yes.
it only the one house there?
Just one. Yeah, it took foundation damage.
And When is that gonna be taken down then?
They were just in, today is Tuesday, they were in on Friday morning to get the permits to take it down. So they've been lucky and they got a lot of volunteer help. So somebody, a reputable construction companies come in and got the permits to demolish it. Jim issued those on Friday, so I would assume within the next few days, they'll probably start. They're gonna have to go through the process, make sure it's abated and all that stuff, and then it will start to come down.
Thank you.
They got a lot of help. A lot of people stepped up to help them. Obviously, FEMA doesn't do 100% reimbursement. So between their GoFundMe and everyone that stepped up in the community to help them and contractors, I think they're doing okay. I haven't checked in with them in the last week, but I think they're gonna be okay.
I know she needed to receive a letter from the building department to hand off to FEMA. So I know Jim got her the letter, and I know they were just emptying out their house. They wanted to make sure they got everything they needed out of the house before they take it
Yeah,
down.
I met with FEMA here last week on the individual side, and I gave them all that stuff as well for their adjust. They'll have their own adjuster, so they should have all that paperwork from me as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thanks, Chief.
All right, thank you.
I
I'm
don't-
gonna run out because my son's got a baseball game, so thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Item number 6, discussion with Seymour Police Department, Seymour Police Deputy Chief Mike Papiano about his time at the FBI Academy in Quantico. I just like saying Quantico.
Quantico. Good evening.
Hi.
Thank you to the board. Thank you for Select Women for having me in tonight to discuss it. It was truly an amazing experience. So the FBI National Academy was set up in 1935. J. Edgar Hoover, he determined that there was a need for their agents to have some sort of support. Back then, as unfortunately now, agencies don't necessarily work so great together. So he developed this program, and what it is it's bringing law enforcement executives down to Quantico, Virginia, the FBI Academy, and you're spending time there. You're learning from FBI agents, instructors, typically the best of the best. And it's a unique opportunity that I was invited to go and attend. And the best part was it didn't cost any money. It's free training put on by the Department of Justice and the FBI. So it's about building those relationships, networking. So I went down just after the 4th of July. It's a 10-week program. You're living on the FBI Academy in Quantico, and you're attending classes daily, as well as incorporating physical agility, physical health into it as well. So you have 2 options when you're selected. That's either to take master's levels classes or bachelor's. So it's working towards that next degree as well. So having my bachelor's, I ended up taking all master's levels classes. It's all affiliated with the University of Virginia, so I walked away with 5 master's levels classes during my time there. So it was good. The training was excellent. I had to do a couple classes I took were officer wellness, officer health, leadership classes, managing the law enforcement image. These days, we struggle with that and doing it well. So that was one of the classes that I took, as well as drug training and violent crime class. So it was excellent training, and building those relationships and networking with other professionals, other executives in law enforcement agencies. That's one of the big things that they push upon you. Take that away, because you never know when we're going to need someone in another state. And now they're just a phone call away, and there's a face, and you have that relationship set up. So all in all, there were 252 of us who graduated, and that's from all across the world. We had 5 seats in Connecticut this time. Typically, they only get 3 every session. They run 4 sessions a year. 292 actually just started. Today, I think, was their first official day. But we had 5 in Connecticut, so now I have faces. I have ties in New Haven PD, Waterbury, Connecticut State Police, as well as someone along the shoreline in Clinton. So you have those relationships. Like I said, they're a phone call away. A lot of it was networking, and it was a unique and a great opportunity. It's been 19 years since Seymour has gotten a seat there. It's very competitive. So I'm very happy that I was able to go and bring back all of that knowledge to our department and our community. So
Great, thank you. Any questions?
So like when we watch Blue Bloods or all those shows and the local police aren't getting along with the FBI, you guys kind of straighten that all out then?
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I'm not going to say the federal agencies share a lot of information or
Right.
play too well, but they try based on some of the stories we were
Sure.
told down there from.
Anything that you learned there that you can incorporate into our police department?
Absolutely. Like I said, a lot of it. So, officer health and wellness is a huge push nowadays, especially with the current trend and the climate. Luckily, in Seymour, we have a very supportive community. Other agencies, it's not that supportive, but we're very fortunate. But the officers seeing things, doing things day after day, it takes a toll on their health and wellness. So, there's a big push to incorporate different programs, peer support programs, which we have in place, but it's sort of building upon that. As well as the leadership class, I have to say all of the classes that I took, they were all excellent. I'm glad I took them. And just talking to other people who took other classes, it sounds like the classes they took, same thing. It was top notch. It was very, very good training. So next step is the master's degree, finishing off the rest of those credits, but halfway there.
Good.
So
I'm so glad you got to be able to go.
it was truly a great
And
experience.
thank you for
So.
spending so much. Do you spend a lot of time away from your family?
I flew home a few times. Did a trip to New York twice, so it was good. We got to spend some time together, and then
Well,
a
it's
lot
still
of
a
it was
sacrifice,
exploring.
So thank you. I'm
Yeah.
glad you got a lot out of it.
So it was very good.
Great.
So once again, thank you for having me, and I appreciate it.
Thanks for the update.
Anything?
All right.
Thank you, and it was nice to have a seat at the table after 19 years of not having a seat at the table.
Absolutely.
Great, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Item number 7, discussion regarding the potential purchase of the Regional Water Authority land near the Great Hill Dam. You will see a letter from the Regional Water Authority in your packet. The town has worked with the Connecticut Resource Conservation and Development for a few months now. The town of Seymour purchased the property back in 1998, and it has remained untouched. A tornado caused significant damage to the trees and left large amounts of debris on the partial, really inhibiting it for use of recreation. We do not currently have a forestry management plan in place. So at the Great Hill Reservoir Dam, on the property is a dam from 1919. And the State of Connecticut has classified it as a Class C concern with needs for it to be repaired, replaced, or dismantling it due to failing conditions. Funding is very limited, and the town's ability to move forward is finding a solution to get it funded. So they are working with us on that. The town is looking to make this area a passive recreational area where residents and visitors can enjoy nature, hiking, fishing, of course it being a catch and release, or going for a picnic. The town is looking to purchase the additional parking space so that people can park there safely. We currently only have parking at the 34-188 connection on the side of Squantic Road, and that is also where the Eagle Landing that I spoke before about in the beginning of the meeting is. Kurt, can you give a little bit more detail?
Yeah, thank you, Madam First Selectwoman. So, as was mentioned, the dam has been an issue for quite some time. We started looking at different options at the dam probably 5 years ago. Over the last year or so, through the hard work of our engineering team, we've been given different options as to what to do with the dam. Obviously, the best thing to do, cost effective for the long term, is to take the dam completely down, but that comes with a cost of about $10 million. So we started looking at some other alternatives. The other alternatives do open up the door for passive recreation in this area. The town purchased, as was mentioned, all but for some reason a 5-acre chunk of land that was retained by the Water Authority. So we reached out to the Water Authority to see if it would be possible to acquire that land, and you can see the response from the real estate person in your packets. We did spend some time, as the First Selectwoman mentioned, having the area studied. So we had a bunch of different groups that were actually here last week. We spent 4 or 5 hours out on the site walking the property. This area does back up to the land in Oxford that is trails for both hiking and mountain biking. For those of you that have been on the board for a while, know that those folks came in about 4 or 5 years ago looking to add mountain bike trails in Seymour. So we marched all around. It's going to be very easy to connect Seymour trails with Oxford trails to make one very large trail system. The acquisition of this property would be very beneficial to that. Just on the hiking side, we'd be able to put in some additional parking, very limited parking in that area. And everyone knows going down that hill, it does get a little dangerous to be parking on the street or walking on the street. So again, at this point, it's more just as an FYI for you folks to let you know that this is something that the town is looking at. Obviously, the Regional Water Authority has to do their due diligence. They have some steps that they would have to clear before it could even become open for us to purchase. I actually received an email just this morning. They're a month behind. So while this email itself says January, it's actually going to be pushed out to February. There was one additional step on their end that John didn't take into account that's going to add an extra month to it. But we wanted to put this on the agenda tonight, introduce the concept to you, have Brian talk a little bit about the process of us acquiring this land, if that's something you wanted to do, and then also give you folks plenty of time to think about it and consider it and come to a decision. So, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. If I may, just a couple of considerations. As you know, you're going to have to identify a source or sources of funding for this should you decide to acquire it, if from your budget or from other funds. And you'll have to send this out for a Connecticut General Statute 8-24 review to the Planning Commission, since it's the acquisition of real estate. And you can do that by motion tonight if you want to add it to your agenda, or at a future time once you decide that you may want to proceed in that direction.
Is there any questions?
I do have some, because I know, I'm familiar with the road and the area there. The Great Hill Reservoir, we don't have that property. I don't know exactly what we own in Seymour.
So when you come to the four-way intersection, we'll call
Right,
it
the
the
road-
roundabout.
Right,
If you're coming from, let's say Cemetery Hill Road, coming in that way. If you look immediately to your right, you take the road to go up to Oxford. Everything from the left of that road, essentially down to the water, or down to the river, the town owns with the exception of this 5-acre parcel. And
so
it
the
runs,
reservoir is on our part in Seymour?
Yes,
Okay.
that's
And
where
then
dam
the
is.
55 Squantuck, I mean, I'm just looking at MapQuest here, like that. Is it across the street from Squantuck Road? It
I
looks
think,
like that on here.
yeah, it's kind of, if you know
Below Hall
where,
Place, or,
yeah, kind of where Dolan Circle is.
right.
It's kind of across from Dolan Circle. It's kind of hard to tell in the woods exactly where you are looking out on the street, but it's sort of right in that area.
Okay, all right.
No, I know that area.
You hide that area. Teresa, any more questions?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Fred?
Maybe at some point we could meet, and look at the property, just get an idea of what's there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd be happy to take you all on a walk if you want to.
I mean, not that we're going to do much, but we're decision makers. It's nice to see, have a physical view of what's there.
Do you want to do some?
It's actually easy to come down the hill by the dam, and then there's one steep part, but once you get on that, it's kind of open trail along it, so you'll be able to see a vast chunk of it, and then it gets woodsy. Then it'd be real hiking, but it shouldn't be a problem for anyone.
Thank you.
Trish? I don't have any questions. Okay, thank you. So, I mean, it was discussion, we're not gonna take any actions, I think we should see the property before we put it on, so, January, we'll put it back on the agenda, maybe December, January timeframe? You wanna put it on before then?
I guess if you want to hike it, I would assume, or visit it, we should probably
Wanna
do
do
that
it
in the next
sooner.
couple weeks.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you guys want to come up with a day and time,
Not this weekend.
That works.
Going on.
yeah, there's-
Maybe we'll look at sometime at the end of October, beginning of November.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, Brian brings up a good point. Maybe have the leaves off the trees. That might give you a better view of the
Sure,
road to your
yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Kind of get an idea where you are.
Okay.
Sure.
All right, so you'll send out a date for that.
Yep.
Thank you. Item number 8, discussion and possible action regarding the formation of a charter revision commission. As you know, we discussed putting together a charter revision committee. We need to set the committee and have the names appointed to them. Brian, can you give us the details of it, what exactly we need? Because we're going to have to appoint that in our next meeting.
Yes, Madam First Selectwoman. Under the state statute, this process can be initiated by you, the Board of Select Persons. And within 30 days of your initiating the charter revision process, you have to appoint members to the commission. And under the statute, you can have between 5 and 15 members. They have to be electors of the town of Seymour. No more than 1/3 of the membership may hold other public office in the town of Seymour, and no more than a bare majority of those members can be of the same political party.
I'm
So
sorry, what was
again,
that
yeah,
last
I'll go
language?
through. I'll go through again. Yeah, 5 to 15 members. They all have to be electors of our town, Seymour. No more than 1/3 may hold other public office in Seymour, and no more than a bare majority can be in the same political party. So you then would, appoint those individuals. You may also make recommendations to the Charter Revision Commission of things that it should consider, items it should consider doing. In its report, the commission is required to comment on any items that you specifically recommend that it consider. It can consider anything else, though, at the same time. It's not limited to what you ask it to do. And you can and have to specify the time within which you want the commission to make its final report. I'm sorry, its draft report. Its draft report has to be within 16 months of the date you appoint it. And then the other requirements, as you may know from last time, there's at least 2 public hearings required by the commission. There's draft reports, final reports. You could send it back to them for more consideration. There's a number of steps which we don't need to talk about now, but to get it going, you have to appoint members, and then send questions if you desire. Send questions for the commission to consider in its process, and a time to report back. So you have to back up from the election. Just give it enough time if you want this. I'd recommend you have this on a general election ballot and not try to do it by special election for the sole purpose, because you're going to run into the problem of the minimum number of people you need to pass this, and it's very hard to get those people at a special election when charter revision is the item. Unfortunately, many people will not come out for that. We've seen in other towns.
The 16 months, repeat that part again?
Yes, you have to specify in your resolution appointing them when you want the draft report. But the first draft report can be no later than 16 months from the date you appoint the commission. We can assist you with backing in dates so you have enough time, because the Charter Revision Commission needs to hold at least 2 public hearings, one prior to beginning any substantive work, and one after the draft report is completed, but before it's submitted back to the Board of Select Persons. They can hold other public hearings if they want. They're not required to. They then submit a draft report to you. You, Board of Select Persons, have to have at least 1 public hearing on the draft report that you've received from the commission. You have a window, again, no more than 45 days after receiving the report can that hearing occur. And then from the hearing, you have to make a decision on it. If you make no recommendations for changes in the draft report, it becomes final and you have to act on the draft report. Or you can send it back with recommendations for changes. They can act on that and send it back to you again. It's a complex kind of series of dates you have to pay attention to while you're doing
Is
this.
there a way that you could possibly send that to us in an email, bullet pointed, so that we can share with the board?
Absolutely.
Because we want to be able to make sure that,
I have that done already. I've done exactly that, which I'll share with you electronically if you'd like, the basic steps in the process.
Great.
So you can kind of follow along and decide what you want to do.
all right, because I would ideally like to have something appointed by our meeting in October or beginning in our first meeting in November.
And what you have to watch out is the critical date is the approval for submission of the item or the questions to the voters must be 60 days before the election. So if it's November of 2025, that is September. It has to be September. So then you have to back up from there to make sure.
So I assume you would provide a schedule, time frame. for the
Exactly.
Commission to work within that.
Exactly. I wouldn't have the report too late because you don't want to give them too much time to do it, because then you're going to box yourself. You're not going to have it done by November of 2025. You'd have to either have a special election or go to 2026.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Brian.
So what you should do in the meantime is start thinking about, break out your old charters and think about things you may like them to look at or address, because you have the power and the right to direct the commission in that, focus them in
board-
that direction.
If the board can start doing, putting together what you would like to see as well, we can compile a list together. Okay. Number 9, discussion and possible action regarding the renaming of the Broad Street Park. Select person Stanek mentioned a few meetings about renaming Broad Street Park. We had discussed tabling it until school started and having a name contest or something along that line. I am bringing it back up to this board to ask what they would like to do.
If I may,
Absolutely.
I reported previously that Stephanie Chacon, the assistant principal of Chatfield La Vista School, had indicated that she would be amenable to conducting a contest, coordinating a contest among students between grades 4 and 12 to come up with a name of the park. I spoke with her. I made it very clear that it would be up to this board to finally name the school and the school park, and that any naming winner of the contest would be given a prize, but that's not, but his or her winning of the prize doesn't necessarily mean we would name the park after that name. So,
We would give them a prize if we liked their name, but we don't necessarily have to name the park that.
right.
Okay, I like that idea. All right, but
I've
did,
indicated that I would donate $100 for the winner for a gift certificate. Anybody else might participate, that's up to them.
I may go to grade 12 for that one. Was it Teresa, did you mention that you wanted to open it to adults? Was that you?
I don't think it was me, but I know we had discussion on that.
I mean, we could limit it to the winner, give the winner the name, but I think Mr. Lombardi wanted some input, so.
He did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with
think
that
same.
idea, Brett.
So Stephanie Chacon indicated that she would probably need till early November to be in a position to present to us the possible names for us to decide on the winner. I indicated that the awards committee would likely be the one to recommend to this board the winner of the contest. So we could still have a public hearing, or we could just decide on, to use the name of the winner. That's up to the board.
Back to you. Okay.
But the ordinance does give the board the final say.
Any other input on that?
So we will have to have a public hearing at some point too. under the
Absolutely.
ordinance. So I don't know if you want to wait or,
That's fine, there's no rush. I don't see
No, I
this
don't
as
see a
something we
rush
have to rush, so.
Yeah, I
If
think,
just wanted us not to, I wanted to put it on here so we did not forget about it.
I just want to say, as I drove by the park coming here this evening, it just looks so terrific, so beautiful, with the lights on and the trees, the color coming into the trees, the fall colors. It's just such a beautiful park, and it really does deserve a beautiful name other than Broad Street Park.
It does. Brian?
I don't think you can just go forward and say the winner of the contest is the name that's going to be be selected for the park. Under your ordinance, you have it has to be presented in writing to the board, the proposed name, and the proposal has to identify the park, the area, the proposed name, and the reason or the background for that name. At which time you, as a board, remember, have to consider it within 30 days. You may have a public hearing. It's your discretion whether you have a public hearing. You don't have to. And if you have a public hearing, it has to be a vote within 30 days. And again, you need to have your 2/3 of the entire membership. So not just those present, but you need 2/3 of the entire membership to decide that. So just keep that in mind, how you set this up.
Okay. I just wanted to get it back on the agenda because I know we had mentioned it and then school came in session and we had the flood and
You have a very well-written ordinance to carry you through this.
So November? Is that what I'm hearing?
I move to table the matter until the second meeting in November.
Yes. Motion by Fred,
Second.
second by Trish, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Okay. This, number 10, update report of the Bungay Elementary School Building Committee. Fred, Selectman Stanek. I will turn this over to you.
And to Tricia, too.
And to Trish Denk
Tricia's
as
on
well.
the committee.
I keep forgetting you. I'm
She's our financial whiz on the committee.
That's right. Go ahead.
The committee has planned 2 public information workshops, planning sessions coming up on October 8th, next Tuesday. Is that Tuesday? Tuesday, and then on October 16th. The 2 sessions will substantially be the same, but we thought we would give the opportunities to people who can't make the 8th to also come on the 16th. There's going to be a presentation at Bungay Elementary School by the committee and by the architects, Antonazzi Associates, which are conducting the preliminary feasibility planning session, development feasibility plans and cost estimates for the project. The project, we have a time schedule. We hope by early January, there will be a meeting with the Board of Ed. The Board of Ed has to approve the plans also, and then this board would decide on a referendum date. The architects suggested at first a referendum date of late March, early April. We said we'd like to push it up earlier to try to get it away from the public hearing on the budget, because people are talking about mill rate then. The architects now is suggesting March 11th as a date for the referendum. That's up to us at the end of the day. Tricia.
This is just a very important project, and I think anyone who can come out and support or call the superintendent's office, I'm sure they will make arrangements for anyone in the public who's voting in Seymour on this matter at some point, but we're starting to get the word out now. Take a tour of the building, and it's really impossible to not see that this needs to be supported.
So the committee is looking for input from the public to help the architects come up with the preliminary concept plans and a cost estimate. There will be much more information available to the public in early January, and then, of course, there will be the opportunity for the committee to inform the public more about the project in January and February.
Great. Any questions?
These meetings on the 8th and 16th, are they going to be taking tours of the building?
The building will be available for people to walk through. We're not going to give formal tours.
I almost think it would be a good thing for the public to see the shape that Bungay School is in, because when I went up there and took a look at it, I was taken back by what we have right now, and I'm not sure if everyone knows what kind of
They can't know. I didn't know until.
disrepair it was. Well, I don't want to say disrepair, but the shape that it's in over all these years.
They've done the best they can keeping
Oh,
it
absolutely. I
as-
give them the
as-
credit for that.
Absolutely.
But I think if people saw what the school is like, they would really understand why the need is here and what we're going to be going through.
So again, that's why I said I really do encourage them to come out on these dates, but if it's impossible for you to do so, call
Yeah.
the superintendent's office and ask for,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, some consideration.
Even if you're a
to take
naysayer, I
look at a
think it
different
might
time.
switch over. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
It's very important that we maintain our schools. And the school's been maintained well, but it's just that it's had thousands of students, especially since the last
Higher.
renovation in 1995, go through that school, and the surfaces have been deteriorating.
Yeah.
But we also have to address safety issues, such as the bus and car traffic that enters and leaves the school on a daily basis. We're going to take care of that. We need to upgrade the HVAC system. We need to upgrade the electrical system. There are important infrastructure items beyond the surfaces. We will work on the surfaces. What's really important are the specifications for the current educational programming. The teachers are saying they need more space or need to restructure the wall of the school, because there's more and more individual one-on-one teaching today than it was back in 1954 when the school was built.
And our kids deserve it.
The architects are going to give us a plan, a conceptual plan to renovate the building, to renovate as new, and to also expand, and also a possible new school. Not that we want to build a new school, but to compare the costs, and so everyone people who might be saying, maybe we should build a new school, will know what that would cost.
It's a great idea. You know, give them apples to apples. You know, there's how much it's gonna cost for a renovation, and there's how much it's gonna cost to build a new school. But like you said, you know, the school was built in 1954, and then it was renovated in 1995.
Yes.
Correct? And here it is 2024. So as school has changed, education has changed, the way we interact with one another has changed. So it's different nowadays than when I went to school. Different when you guys went to school, different than when anybody went to school.
It's really to the kids' benefit
It
because
is.
there's more identified needs and how to help learners of all types. And that really isn't all there is to it because I'm just listening to the dates and I might be aging myself, but it doesn't seem like it's been that long since the last renovation. But walking through the school, you can see the care that the custodians and everyone has kept in the school. But wow, I mean, just the kindergarten wing, you have 2 classrooms full of kindergartners sharing one bathroom. The locker rooms are in complete disrepair. There's doors missing. It's just, it's really showing its age. And I think, in addition to the years, I really encourage people to come out and look at some visuals and understand why this is being looked for. Because, listen, we all know things are tight for everybody. And there's a real eye to make sure this is done as cost effective as possible. But it is so important, as Selectman Stanek said, to maintain our schools and give the kids a space to learn that is welcoming and supporting their education. And we're struggling in that aspect of it based on how old the building is and the repair that it needs. So I'll get off my soapbox
It's
now.
fine. It's also about giving them a safe place to learn.
Absolutely. Safety for the traffic as well as the security of the building are being examined.
Are
So-
ask about the reimbursement rates from the state. Are they the same as when we did Chatfield?
They change all the time and they
Yeah.
might even change one, but they are going to look at all of that and try and maximize.
And what's
what
the
our
difference
reimbursement
between when
rate
you're
was.
saying, having a new building? Is the reimbursement rates different than?
I think the reimbursement rates are better because we're reusing, we're reusing the space and we're reusing our school, we're repurposing the
Right.
school. So your reimbursement rate is higher
Okay.
than you would if you're just building a new school.
Right.
And the rate is based upon exactly what we're going to be doing. Certain items are not reimbursable, certain items are.
They add points, for example, for green elements that we add into the school. We might not agree that all those elements make sense. But there may be items that are, and again, it's just working with the architects. And we're not at that point yet, but that's to, always looking at what do we need to do to boost that reimbursement
Right.
rate.
Mr. Miller?
I don't know off the top of my head, but maybe Fred, you or Trish know, there's a schedule of when you need to apply to get in front of the higher ed committee to be able to get awarded
We need to submit our proposal by June 30th,
June 30th. Okay.
2025.
Yeah, by June.
That's what we're working toward.
So what
We
we'll,
knew we're not going to make it this year. I know with Sheffield, Preston, we rushed it in a few months, but we knew we were going to take our time. We wanted to do this right. Not that Sheffield, Preston wasn't done properly. It's just we decided we're not going to rush it.
and we really want people to go out there to see it for themselves because it's best to see it by yourself. But I'll do a Facebook Live at one of those meetings so we can walk around so people can see it for those that are home as well.
Do we want to talk about the environmental assessment?
That's what I'm gonna go to
Okay.
A. On to number A is a discussion and possible action regarding the approval of a Phase 1 environmental assessment on the Bungay Elementary School.
Antonazzi Associates, the architecture firm that we were using at this point for the conceptual drawings, has recommended that we undertake a Phase 1 environmental assessment of the school. The architects have indicated that the state of Connecticut will want to see that, and the proposed cost that they had from one of their subcontractors is $4,800 to $5,000. And I know you, Madam First Selectman, said you thought there are firms that could do it for a lesser price.
There are firms that can do it for lesser price.
I-
So phase one, it is a school. It is not a facility. It is not a building, and I speak of, because that is my wheelhouse.
I know that.
So it's not considered an area, a building that would have material in it or a manufacturing facility. It is a building. So really, all they're really good doing is they're going to the DEP, they're reviewing reports that were there. Maybe there was a release at that site. We had an oil release. They did a full remediation of that site. It was a couple of years ago, and that's been done. So I don't think $5,000 is a give or take. In my head, I have the number of how much a phase one should cost.
You told me, yes.
Yes. I would say if we're going to do that, I would say it's no more than, if we had to put a price on it, I would say make it no more than $4,500, not to exceed $4,500. And I would solicit 3 people, I would solicit people to come in and not that you have to bid on it because it's very low, but solicit vendors. And I can give you names of people.
Yes, I spoke to one of the principals of the firm, the architect firm, and he said he'd welcome those names.
Okay. And just so we're being very clear and very transparent, I do not work with any other firms in this. I would not even be doing a phase one. That is not my wheelhouse to do the phase ones.
Your expertise is appreciated.
You're welcome. So we'll get you some names for that.
Tricia, anything else?
I don't have anything. I support the phase one, and I was the first person, as Selectman Stanek will say, to speak up and say, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah.
I'm not really for spending this money yet because we don't have an approval to do school, so I need to understand. But again, it's something that the state's gonna be looking for, and that's going to be imperative when we do go back to them looking for funds later.
Right, and the phase one is also gonna say, dating how old the school is, with the asbestos, any asbestos in the building, any lead in the building, but there is an asbestos management plan. So all that will come out in that report. And if that has to be abated, that will come into a phase 2 or phase 3 down the road. And
We
that's,
understand what needs to be done, but, we need the approval to go out for the assessment.
okay, so can somebody wanna make a motion?
I'll make a motion to spend, to authorize no more than 4,800,
I would go 45.
4,500, no more than 4,500 to do a phase one environmental assessment of Bungay Elementary School.
I'll second the motion.
Motion by Trish, second by Fred. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries 4-0. Please note, Selectman Bruno has left to go somewhere.
And I just want to say, everyone is welcome to these 2 informational sessions. We hope people show up.
Thank you. Item 11, discussion regarding the Emergency Management Director's position. Selectwoman Danka, sorry. And this board had asked Kurt Miller and Chris Pelosi to investigate the E&D around the states to see what is done. Kurt, if you will.
Thank you, Madam First Selectwoman. So I did meet with HR Director Pelosi. We had an initial meeting to kind of put a plan together as to how we would attack this going forward. So we had some general conversation. Where we are now is still in that study phase. We're looking at salaries. We've reached out to CCM to get some information, but as you can imagine, it's kind of all over the map. So we're in the process of making phone calls to different communities just to kind of see what they do, why they do it. We then have identified 2 emergency management directors that we're actually going to go speak with. One is a small town emergency management director to get that person's feeling. The other is actually an assistant emergency management director at a larger community. And the reason why we're choosing the assistant emergency management director, we think that would be more reflective on what we would ultimately be doing. In a larger community, a lot of times you may have the paid professional fire chief, as an example, is also the emergency management director, and a lot of that is in title. Kind of the day-to-day boots on the ground stuff is done by the assistant who is actually running the process. So we wanted to get a good understanding of the level of work that goes in. I think we can all agree that when there's a storm, emergency management directors are swamped with keeping up. But what's it like in the time in between? What's the level of reporting that needs to be done? Is it, 5 or 6 reports? And that may seem like, oh, it's only 5 or 6 reports. That's not big. That's not a big deal. But we don't understand how big those reports are. How much time does it take to compile the data and do the reporting and things like that? So we're trying to get that information so when we do present to you, we can give all of that to this board to help you guys make the decision that you want to make. We're also going to come up with some recommendations on how the position could be staffed. Is it full-time? Is it part-time? Is it stipend? Can it have other job functions merged in with it? What makes sense? I don't think it makes sense to have an emergency management director that is pulled from their regular job functions to do that role, and now the other job function is suffering. Example, we got to talk about what Chris does, but Chris is also a public works director, but when he's doing
No, he's
emergency
not. He's a
management
public
stuff.
works employee.
Public works employee, excuse me, public works employee. When he's doing his emergency management stuff, he can't do the public works stuff, and that kind of penalizes public works a little bit. So, if we're going to have it be a position that has kind of dual functions, we want to make sure there's some synergy between all that. It makes sense. So we're anticipating that we would have something for you that's digestible in November. We're shooting for the first meeting in November, but it may be the second meeting, just depending on how quickly we can meet with these folks. The folks that we're talking to obviously are going through the same stresses and pressure that our emergency management director is, so we have to be also aware of their time constraints and things like that. So with that, if anybody has any questions or.
I do. I understand why you're meeting with the assistant emergency management director in the larger town, but aren't the requirements for an emergency management program the same no matter? I understand for a larger town it might need more resources, but the requirements of having an emergency management program from a regulatory standpoint and to protect citizens it's primarily the same, correct?
At the basic level, yes. And I think what you see with a lot of the smaller towns that have volunteers, what they're doing is what they need to do to kind of meet the requirements. What you see in the bigger towns where they have an actual full-time person, these people meet the minimum and then they exceed it. So what we want to get an understanding of what's the difference between the two. How much more, would we be getting, I should say, between keeping it volunteer versus keeping it or making it paid. And now the person's here, in theory, 35 hours a week doing it full time. So are there other responsibilities that they have, other programs that they put in place? Do they do more reporting? Do they do more training? That type of stuff. So we kind of want to get a flavor. And again, to go to the person that's also the fire chief, well, obviously a lot of their responsibility is going to be dealing with the fire department and things like that. That's why we're looking at the assistant, because that person is just purely EMD work 30, 40 hours a week.
So I appreciate what you're doing, but to be clear, the whole reason that I brought this up at the last meeting is because we learned when we did have the flood that there was a lot more to emergency management, at least during an emergency, than any of us thought. And more responsibility, not just responsibilities, there's more we're responsible for as a town than any of us thought. So as you're speaking to these folks, let's make sure we're also kind of making sure that we have that list. I don't want to rely on another town to know they have a complete list. I want to know that we're pulling that from either the state or somewhere else,
Yeah.
so that we have that complete list. I don't want to rely on, this is how this town does it, and the other town, this is what they're doing.
We'll have all the documentation from FEMA and DEMIS as well. But again, it's just more kind of a day-to-day thing where they list out. I mean, listen, I know what's required, what GFOA and everybody says for a finance director, but what does the finance director truly do?
Right.
It's that type of stuff. So
Okay.
I just want to give
Thank
you
you.
guys some real-life examples, just so you better understand. It's a lot. And then as we dig through it, I realize there's a lot of stuff that I didn't know. So it's
No, I
interesting.
think that's what we're uncovering, which is why I asked the question and wanted it researched.
Yeah.
We'll take the culverts, right? inspection of culverts. Well, okay, yeah, well, how often do you inspect the culverts? Do they have to be inspected monthly? Do they have to be inspected semi-annually? Do they have to be inspected annually? So I think that's what we're looking, for, but I think by getting the small town, right? If it's a small town, I wanna make sure it's a size similar
It is.
to
It
us.
is.
Not, a small town like, small town Seymour, but it's a small town in a city. We're a town. We only have 16,000 people, 17,000 people.
Yep.
Sorry.
It sounds like this is a position that's beyond being a quote-unquote director, somebody who gets down into the weeds also,
Yeah,
such
yes.
as culverts, inspecting culverts. You wouldn't think a director would be doing that.
Sure we do.
Yeah, starting to unpack,
I do.
some of the certifications and things that these folks are required to have, it's a lot. It's a lot. No, I mean, I don't know. I can't speak to the culverts because again, I'm still
I just used that as an
learning.
example because
That's a little out of my
somebody
lane,
just
but
brought it up, but it sounds like a person that does a lot more than just overseeing.
Kind of fun.
and the other thing too is if depending on what the pleasure of the board is, obviously we would be creating a job description of some kind. So we'd want to make sure that whatever that job description was realistic for the expectations of the person we were hiring. And
Well, I want
know.
to cross that bridge once we
Right.
figure out if
well, that's what I'm
what-
saying. So I want to
yeah.
get it all put together for you, so you have it.
I think
So-
it would be important that we know exactly what the different functions are, because right now we see what Chris is doing. We've had a terrible catastrophe, but, 3 years from now, when we're beyond that, what is the emergency management director doing? I know there's training, I know there's planning, but, is there enough work for emergency management director 3
Yep.
years down the road?
And that's the thing that we're looking into, because again, they're busy now, and even if you bring in an emergency management director and that person wants to redo everything, redo reporting and testing and structure and everything else, at some point they've built the operation that they want. Now that the operation is built and it's efficient and effective, well, what happens after that? What is the now time requirements to keep that operation going? Is it a full-time job? Is it a part-time job? That's kind of what we're trying to understand. So.
Very good. I appreciate that.
And I just have a question. I know it's a long way off, but would this position then be funded in our next budget cycle? Is that when we're looking to?
I personally haven't even thought about it. I just asked the question based on all the reports
Right.
Chris is giving. And then when we had the presentation from, I forgot her name again,
Nicole
Nicole,
Ballard.
really easy
Yep.
name to remember.
Yeah.
There really is much more to it than any of us ever thought. So I want to be sure that we're crossing our
Right.
Ts and dotting our Is. And I just want to figure that out first myself.
Right. I believe, when we did our budget, if you remember correctly, that was before we got all our insurance numbers in, because we have to have our budget done by June. And our insurance numbers didn't come in until July. So I think there was some extra money in the budget, because we said it was gonna be one thing and it came back a little bit cheaper, so there may be some money in there to play with, but not sure, but we would definitely fund it for the 2025, 2026 budget season.
Yeah, correct. We saved about $100,000, give or take, just from some changes that we made to who we get our insurance with. So there is potentially some financial flexibility within this budget, but depending on how far and how deep you all want it to go, realistically, maybe it has to wait until the new budget for fiscal '26, but it would just depend on that. And two, but by the time we give you the report and you folks all digest it, you make some decisions, and then if it were to be a job of some kind, whether it be full-time, part-time stipend, you'd have to post it, you'd have to interview it. So realistically, we could be looking at February, March, April, something that time frame. So now you're only talking a few months, something like that we could make work within the budget if we had to, if that's the pleasure of the board.
Yeah, I don't want to put the cart before the
Yeah.
horse just
Right.
yet.
Yeah.
We need to,
Yeah, we haven't gotten to that thinking as of yet.
any other questions? Al?
Sounds like the research is being done on similar questions, so
Teresa? All set?
I'm all set.
thank you though.
Thank you.
Number 12, appointments. Please note that there is one appointment for this week's meeting. Mike Dean resigned from the Parks Commission, submitted his letter last week. So, under appointments, we have,
Can I make a motion?
go ahead.
Make a motion to appoint Curtis Williams to the Parks Commission. It's an appointment for 2 years that he's finishing out,
Yes.
ending on December 1st, 2025.
Motion by Trish,
Second.
second by Al. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries 4, 5, 0. Thank you. Okay, there are no transfers. Please review the tax refunds and ensure no conflict of interest. If there is, please abstain from the voting. May I have a motion for the transfers? For the tax refunds?
I'll make a motion to approve the tax refunds as presented.
Second.
Motion by Al, second by Trish. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries 5-0. Correspondences, the town's EDC director's report is included. It shows what she's been working on, whom she's been speaking with, businesses interested in Seymour, and grants that we have received and are applying for. This report will be given for the first meeting in each month. We can have it written, or if we want her here, we can let her know that we would like to have her come in here. We just gotta give them some notice. So you'll see that she was coordinating with the NBCOG, as well as working on the women's business development that was part of the flood. Working on the 42 corridor, Main Street improvements that we talked about, working with Metro North and Brian Asteriak, DOT and OPM. 140, 140, 143 Main Street. Grants from the Small Town Economic Program, the STEEP grant, the SIF funds, DEP rec trails, as well as some new opportunities from phone calls that she received. And she's creating a page to mark vacant properties with potential businesses looking to come to Seymour. If anybody has any questions, we can have her at the next meeting in October to answer any questions. If that's the board's pleasure, just let me know. Okay. 16, public comment. Is there any public comment? Public comment going once, public comment going twice, public comment going 3 times, no public comment. So we'll go to selectmen public comment, select person's public comment. We'll start with Trish.
I had an opportunity to go to the Pumpkin Festival and watch our recipients receive their awards, as well as the Pumpkin King and Queen and Prince and Princess, which was great fun. It was a nice day, and I am glad I was able to go. That's all I have.
Al?
Just looking forward to the Pink 5K on Saturday. Hope everybody comes out, supports the
ready?
runners, and should be a good day, as always.
I want to follow up what Tricia said about the Pumpkin Festival, great community event, been around 58 years. I remember when I was a young 12, 13-year-old, I grew gourds and pumpkins and sold them to the women's club, who then upped the price and sold them at the Pumpkin Festival. So, but that's some 50-plus years ago. Anyway, I would also like to mention that I've had a couple complaints about lawn signs, political signs being stolen. That is against the law to steal a political sign.
I
So,
haven't seen any out, but okay, go ahead.
so
Maybe that's why.
I just want to mention, there's a fine involved. We need to respect everybody's point of view and not steal lawn signs. I have a lawn sign on my lawn. I decided not to put it by the road so it won't get stolen. I put it in front of my house, right in front of the house. So I just want to make that clear. It is an infraction to steal lawns.
Yes.
Or
Yes,
Most
step to
certainly
step,
is.
yeah.
And we have to respect everyone's views.
Absolutely.
And Chris was here, and I forgot to ask about the train update. Do we have any updates on the Metro North?
Metro North
Waterbury
train, I
Branch
think it's
line.
out another 6 weeks.
6 weeks, okay. All right, and then I know we talked earlier, a few months ago, about the turf field and looking at getting monies to set aside. Maybe we can revisit that again with the Board of Education and the town side.
That's being worked on.
Maybe we can get an update. where we're at?
Well, I know the town has money in it, but last, well, we can get an update for you.
Good, thank you.
Well,
No problem. Okay. Comments from the first selectwoman. I got a page, I got pages. Sorry, guys. It's kind of busy. I just want to thank the Pumpkin Festival Committee for a beautiful job on the Pumpkin Festival. Every year it gets bigger and better. I know they're probably already planning next year's. It was great to see the town's awards handed out at the Pumpkin Festival and honoring the members of the town as not just the princesses and the pumpkin court, which is important, but also showing that there are people in town going above and beyond as well. Last week there was a meeting with the land surveyor for the state and Metro North, speaking of trains, Teresa, as they are looking to expand the train station waiting center and parking. Currently, they are looking at taking the parking at 150 Main Street and 170 Main Street for this. This is the parking lot along the train tracks, as well as the parking lot for the Bank of America parking lot they're looking at taking. As soon as we have more information, we'll keep everybody up to date and informed on that. You sound like you have a question.
So the state's looking to take those?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not to be confused at 165
No,
Main Street.
yeah, I got it, yeah.
We received our approval letter from the state of Connecticut DOT to go to bid for West Church Street, Bungay Botsford Road project. There are several steps in which the construction has to take place. First, we have to go out to bid for 6 to 8 weeks. The town engineer will review the bid and pick the best qualified contractor that submitted a complete bid. And I say this because sometimes we don't get completed bids and we have to reject those. The contractor will sit down with the town engineer, the police, the fire, the ambulance, the Board of Education, and the bus company to come up with a traffic pattern that will best work for those to respond to emergencies and ensure the buses can transport and drop off the students safely. The road construction will be broken down by areas to be worked on. The entire road will not be dug up at once. They will be working one section at a time. Once the construction plan and schedule has been done, it will be presented to the residents in that area and in the town in a public meeting, and the construction will start. Okay. We have been receiving phone calls from residents regarding chickens and roosters. The town of Seymour does not have any ordinance regarding whether a homeowner can own chickens or roosters or how many they can own. There is an ordinance on how the coops must be maintained and the areas around it have to be kept clean. I received phone calls regarding the WPCA and the sewer usage fee. The WPCA has not voted on an increase yet. I believe they will do that at their meeting next week. Their meeting is the first Monday of every month here in Town Hall at 6 o'clock. I have sent my thoughts and concerns to the WPCA regarding billing, communications, liens, and collections. I am against the percentage that the board put out there. I met with Lori Nispoli and John Lombardi last Friday. Lori is with Love Mom XOXO and John is with Bushy Band. 3 of us put the Buddy Bench program together, and we're looking to putting in the next one. The next one's going to go at the dog park at Socrates Pond, and another at Chatfield Park over by the basketball courts. If anybody would like to donate to a bench or sponsor a bench, please let us know. We are now working on Kindness Day with Dr. Compton. We will be speaking at the schools this year. The theme this year is growing kindness, and we're looking at trees and flowers. And as we grow something, we put the petal in, and what that happens is in the fall, as you know, a petal falls off and it dies, but it keeps growing back. It keeps regenerating. So it's regenerating the kindness. This group is also looking at having a rainbow bridge put in at the dog park. This way people have a place to go and remember their fur babies. If they like to go there, they can put the collar there. They can, if it's a cat, if it's a dog, it's a place they can go to remember them and to think about them often, and we thought the dog park would be a good place for that. I met with Wyatt Smars and his mom, Kathy. Wyatt is an ambassador for Best Buddies, and he's working on his capstone project. Wyatt would like the Best Buddies in all the schools, not just the high school. Best Buddies is a nonprofit organization. It consists of volunteers who create opportunities for people with intellectual and development disabilities. The program's primary purpose is to allow volunteers to be paired up with a buddy with an intellectual and development disability and provide them with a friend or a mentor. Best Buddies is the world's largest art organization and is dedicated to ending social, physical, and economic isolation. Anthony Kennedy Shriver founded this in 1989, and the Best Buddies is an international organization, as I said, that has grown from one original chapter to more than 1,500 colleges, high schools, and middle school campuses across the United States and internationally, and I'm looking forward to working with Wyatt on that project. We had 2 grand openings this week, and on the weekend, one was at the Riverside Diner in front of the strip mall in front of Dock 34, and the other one was at the corner deli in Seymour at the corner of Progress and 67. Both have fantastic food. This weekend, several events took place. The Seymour Fire Department juniors did a demonstration for their families and friends to show what they learned and how they are applying it to the real world at fire scenes. Believe it or not, the juniors do go to fire scenes, and they help the firefighters behind the scenes. This year's, according to Instruction Lombardi and Burgess's, they have about 23 kids in this group, and it's the largest group ever in the program. You know, Teresa and I have gone, and we brought them pizzas and just to thank them for all that they've done. And as you know, this town is run on volunteers, and we look forward to them becoming volunteers in this town as well. We had the ACI car show over this weekend, which raised over $3,000 for the Hometown Heroes. Miss Penelope sold lemonade and cookies and made bracelets for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. She raised over $1,500 for the Make-A-Wish, and Dock 34 had a fundraiser this weekend to help the Route 67 Diner. They had a fantastic turnout. A little bit about the early voting, which starts October 21st and goes to the 31st, and November 1st to the 3rd. Early voting is from 10 to 6 p.m. and 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. on the 29th and 31st. We're going to have all the information about early voting up on our website, and I will put something up on Facebook as well. They are accepting same-day voter registration as well, and if you're not registered to vote on Election Day, you may register in person at the Election Day registration site. The Register of Voters will be sending postcards to all registered voters to tell them where their voting place is. For elections, there's only 3 voting polls, and that is Chatfield Lepresti, the Community Center, and Bungay School. When we vote on our budget, there's only one place to vote, and that is at the Community Center. Events happening this month. Friday night is the Seymour Sports Alumni Night at the Seymour High School Football. It's against Holy Cross. They're asking that everybody that is a Seymour alumni in sports to wear your football wear, but if you're not an alumni sports, you can also wear pink because it is the football game's pink night. So they'll be making a donation to Seymour Pink for that. Saturday, October 5th is the Pounding the Pavement event. We have when the streets are going to close. Broad Street and River Street will be closing at 5:30 a.m. Trish, so don't try going over the road before that, like last year. We'll have all the street closures up. Our website has posted all town meetings and events, and all boards, commission, and committee meetings are up for the next 2 weeks on our Facebook page. Citizens Engine Company number 2 is having a New England style breakfast on the 13th. We're hosting a family movie night at the Seymour Land Trust on the 18th. It's going to be outside, so dress accordingly, with a rain date on the 19th. And the 26th is the downtown trick or treat, and the trunk or treat is at the high school. Downtown is from 12 to 4, high school is 6 to 8. But it's also the same night as the Sports Hall of Fame at 5 o'clock at Birchwoods. If you need tickets, please see me or Paul Roy. And that's about it. And with that, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.